in that. But if you are interested in that, we can take some minutes to talk about the two sessions, both on the contents and on the form maybe. What do you think, Mathilde, and everybody?
Yes, I don't know, maybe someone has some feedback about, especially about augmentorium, which is more practical. If you have, if you are interested, if you want to already to test it, and because I guess we can have another session on this, and so please tell us what you want, and if you have any question about the previous session, we can have just so just a moment to discuss a little bit before starting.
That I can start because the first question or the first sentence is harder. Is that in this series of webinars, we are going to try to alternate theoretical topics which are mandatory and very practical topics which are needed by people and actors in the field. So don't worry, I am an applied researcher, but I also have to stress that we need the theoretical basis of what we are talking about. So it's why we can make a mix between such topic, theoretical, practical, case studies, modeling, and so on. And you will see my last slide is richer than the last time and includes a lot of topics possible. So you also have to express what are your preferences, what are your needs, and so on.
Perhaps we could give the floor to some questions, and I have one practical question in that sense. And I'm not so sure, you may have discussed it already in your previous slides, but or was another question because I perhaps missed something. We see this auditorium, that's the tents where you practice the sanitation, you composting, and at that time you do pest control. That is a very labor-intensive technique, and agriculture in Cambodia is these days constrained with a lack of labor, and especially if you want to do a demonstration, because that could be a big issue. How do we mobilize enough labor to clean the things, to clean the area, to build it, and to inspect it every day? In addition to that, when you do that, you said it only works, the crop protection works only if you do it on a larger scale. However, when we're doing demonstrations, we can only do it on a small scale. We cannot cover the whole area. So how effective would it be then? And we're trying to show good results. And we had a discussion yesterday with Smart Agro, and there the same point came up. If you do demonstration, if you do extension, you have to make sure that you show good results. If you do not do good results, you accomplish the opposite. People will reject the technology, the practice, not only for this time, but also in the future. They become more risk averse because they will then see that their own prejudice, their own reservations, their own limitations are only confirmed. So how can we deal with these things, especially with labor-intensive technology like agroecological crop protection? Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know your name, but thank you.
I should have said that. My name is Ruud.
Okay, Ruud, yeah. Thank you, dear colleague Ruud. I perfectly agree with most of you you said. You had a lot of comments or questions, so I take some. I remember, and if I forget some, you remind me. Okay. First, we absolutely need to know what we want to do. We are at the crossroad of crop protection or agriculture, and we have the choice. We have the choice to continue what we are doing for a long time. We have the choice if we want to do alternative of the current agriculture. So it's the first most important question. And if I will come back to that, but if the conditions of success are not met, we have not to engage away on agroecological crop protection. You know, I believe in agroecological protection. I know what it is, but I will be the first person. I don't say scientist, but the first person to say we have not to start agroecological crop protection because the conditions of success are not met. So we really know what we want to do, and there is no problem. For example, if some actors or people want to continue, for example, intensive agriculture or the massive use of pesticides and so on, I have no problem with that. But if we want to have a sustainable agriculture that answers to the issues of today in some part of the world, and tomorrow in some other parts of the world, we have to prepare alternative, because it is not when the day will come that we need to change, that we will do that, or we will push on a button and we will change. We have to prepare it. And during my two first presentations, I stressed on the requirement of the preparation phase. It needs time, it needs discussions, it needs a lot of things, and it needs to have the capacity to engage ourselves together in a new way. If these conditions are not met, we have not to go towards agroecological crop protection. That is a general topic, and at each time I have to repeat that because for me it's the most important. So you know that is not a technical point of view. That is more a social point of view. I could say ecological, social, technical point of view. I could say also a psychological point of view. Well, we have really to discuss together, to share our knowledge, to share our issues, to share our what we want to do before starting anything. And for example, if you ask me the question, can we start a demonstration on augmentorium? I will answer. I will have two answers. First, yes. Technically, it's easy to show how is the principle of an augmentorium in the field, and we can use some insect. We can use a lot of things, and we can show to farmers, for example, but not only farmers, also actors, other advisors, teachers, trainers, policers, I don't know, scientists, and so on. So it's possible, but if the aim is to already start to implement augmentorium for example, in the agriculture conditions you met in, I don't know if it's in Condal, Baton-Bank. Sorry, I don't know the places at this time, but or Privir, or well, if you have not the conditions, you have not to start, and I will be the first person to say that. Concerning the aspect of the work time you talk about augmentorium. Last time I wanted to show a very small movie, but it didn't work. It was a French farmer that used augmentorium for a long time, and he said, I resume what he said. He said that at the beginning it's quite a lot of work, even if it's less work than spraying in the field, and more in the time, because you have a pressure of pests decreasing, you have less and less work to assume. I have written some papers, and I've got some papers also for different experiences of use of augmentorium, and it shows that the work time using augmentorium is less than the work due for using pesticide by spraying and so on. So I understand that maybe we can think that it's a lot of work, but in fact we can discuss that. For me, the most important thing is that for how could I say, a traditional farmer, collecting fruits, for example, on the ground and throwing them in an augmentorium, in a tent, for example, is not really considered on a psychological point of view as a farmer job. The farmer job is to to till, or not to till, of course, to grow, to plant, to harvest, to spray, and so on. So we have to discuss about that. What is, for example, the acceptability of farmers if we propose them? You can replace, for example, spraying chemicals by collecting infested fruit and throwing them in a tent, for example. So it just shows, it's an example to show that it's we need time to discuss that and to share that. And the worst, for me, the worst mistake we can do is just to continue to have traditionally, I also judge myself, to have a top-down approach, saying we are going to show to you a demonstration, and after that you have to use it. We really have to include farmers. Well, I don't want to repeat all the jobs, but all the actors, the stakeholders, to discuss what we want to do, how can we do that, and what are the conditions to meet to engage in this way. Another thing you said, Ruud, is that what about the success? Well, we cannot ensure. I will never write on a paper or something like that, but if you do agroecological cooperation, it will work. I will never write something like that. But if you don't do the experience, if you don't do the job in the field, you cannot say, you cannot know if it works or not. In the situations, for example, where augmentorium were used, I think to Hawaii in the States, or Réunion Island, where I was working before, we didn't know if it could work, but farmers and all the stakeholders agreed to try. But to try is not to try in a small plot. It's just to try with one of the conditions, and one of the conditions is that all the farmers in an area and in a scale of time which is not the growing season, only the growing season, we have to respect that. Well, you understand me, but the most important is to discuss that, and we cannot ensure that it's going to work. For myself, as a person, my experience, my previous experience, I think it works. But anyway, we have to try to answer to the question, and we cannot say to a farmer, and you know, Cambodian farmers are exactly the same farmers than French farmers or Vietnamese farmers or American farmers. They want to reduce the risk. At first, is their main aim is to they just want to reduce this risk. Anyway, you see, it's very important comments you had, Ruud, and for me, it's the base of the discussions we need to have together. When I say together, it means all the stakeholders. And the decision to try, for example, has to be taken collectively, not by, for example, an organization or a scientist or I don't know who, or a policer, to say, okay, now we do that. I stress a lot on that. It's very important. Yeah, I don't know if it sounds, if that answers to all your comments, Ruud, but you understand the main meaning. The main meaning is we can push on a button, as we did for long decades, but we will not have the answers immediately. We have to do before knowing, and we have to know while doing, because we can do that together. But the previous experiences showed that, yes, it works in the conditions, for example, of Hawaii against fruit flies, for example. And another thing, what I would like also to stress again, you know, I repeat, but it's important, because if we repeat, it enters in the brain, is that the current agriculture is not sustainable. I don't know if it will stop today, in 1 hour, or in 1 year, or in 3 million of years. But anyway, it's not sustainable. And we have also to think to the future generations. We have to think about the planet for global issues. And of course, we have to think at first for the local needs of population, of farmers, of their families, of their outcome, and so on. So we know that it's not sustainable. And so we have to rapidly take the opportunity to discuss, to think about what we want to do. And when I discuss with some colleagues, some people, they are convinced that the way is to continue, for example, to have the green revolution with more inputs and so on. Well, it is their choice, and I respect that. But for me, I am convinced that because I see a lot of experience around the world, I am convinced that we have to change of way of driving agriculture. So sorry, I speak too much.
Thank you very much for your answer. You covered most of it, and I think it was very instructive, and it shows that, like I say, we're very important. Like I say, we are not doing just straight moving on to demonstrations, but in this case, it's a matter of trial and error and working together with the farmers very closely, and like I said, taking decisions and get into the whole process. Walk the whole way with the farmers. Not lead them, but walk the way with them.
Yes.
Thanks for your answer.
Philippe, I just have a question. When you started in Réunion Island, did you propose farmers to compensate their risk, or did you not? So they were convinced enough to take the risk?
No, they were not. It's a funny story. I take 1 or 2 minutes to discuss that. It's very important because Réunion farmers are exactly the same than everywhere. And when I know that it was for them, for example, for some cucurbit crops, it became impossible to grow them. And for example, you have patrimonial crops in Réunion, such as shallot. And shallot, the area of shallot was completely decreasing. And if we did nothing, it will disappear from Réunion. And it's crazy. And in spite of that, when we discuss with the farmers, they know that, for example, spraying 4 times or 5 times per week is completely ineffective with all the consequences, but they continued to do that because their neighbors did the same thing, because their father did the same thing, because it was the habits, the tradition to do that. And the yield was completely decreasing, the area completely decreasing, and so on. And so we discussed. And they said, okay, we understand it's not sustainable, and it's more and more difficult to grow our crops. What can we do? I said, I agree with you, and I am convinced that the chemical way or the intensive way, I don't talk about ecological intensification. I'm talking about intensive agriculture with fossil inputs and so on. I think it's a no way. It's a dead end. And I introduced what is agroecology, what is agroecological crop protection, and so on. And they say, well, yes, it's very interesting, but we could be ready to test that. But before that, we need to have a compensation in terms of money to compensate the loss in the yield. And I say, no. So if you think that we have to do nothing, because you are the main actors, you are the farmer, and we are not proposing that just to do something. It's just for you. And if you are not convinced, or if you don't want to freely try that, we have not to start, and we do nothing. I have a lot of work, and I can do other things. And I said also, if you wanted, it's not my job it's not a scientist job to give money to farmers. Okay, it's incredible. And I said on a joke, but if you wanted a priori compensation of in terms of money of a loss of yield, why you don't want to remain the principles to give money back if your yield is increasing, for example? You don't know in advance. You don't know. And in fact, I go to the result, and after I come back how we did. But in fact, for example, in shallot, we just show that with agroecological crop protection, well done, the increase of the yield was of about more than 40%. So not only there was not a reduction of yield, but there was an increasing in the yield. So we don't know in advance if it works, if we will have some problems we just have to do that. And so when I say I'm not here to give money to you, I have not money. I have not. If I get money for a research program, it's not to take the money and to give to farmers. It's just to fund the research. And we said okay. We did numerous meetings with the mayor of the cities, with advisors, with farmers, of course, with scientists and so on. And we decided we do nothing. I think it was the right decision. And 2 weeks later, one farmer, an important farmer, a leader farmer, who were the supervisor of an organization of farmers, called me and said, okay, I have a large area of growing of shallot, for example, and I am ready to try it. And two other small farmers said the same thing. So they were free, but on a sufficient area to test agroecological protection principles. And I know that 1 year later, all the other farmers saw the result in the crops. Some of the farmers, I don't remember the stalled, voler, Mathilde, tu m'aides, voler, stole fruit in the crops of these farmers because the production was very high. And for the other, with chemical farmers, the production was low. And after that, well, all the area, all the water basin went to agroecological co-protection. But you see, it's an experience. It's quite funny because I was the first to say, okay, I understand, I respect your position, and it's better to do nothing.
Yeah, okay, it's very interesting. I think to have this experience, your feedback on that.
And I am sure, I don't know Cambodia. I went only as a tourist to visit some places, nice places in this nice country. But that I know something in Cambodia, that the Cambodian farmers are exactly the same than the other farmers in the world. They want to grow, they want to eat, they want to produce, to harvest, and to have a sufficiently production level of life for them and their family. And it's normal. Everybody has the same position. So really, it's needed to work together and to mainly include farmers, because they are in a central place to do that. Because we don't say, for example, farmer, scientists or engineers or advisors will do the work instead of farmers. We just said, if you want to change your practices, if you want to take another way than the intensive agriculture, you will have to do yourself the job, but not like before, not alone, not doing like you press on a button, not only to go to a shop to buy some products. I don't know. You have to now to work together. You have to share your knowledge, because, for example, I am the first also to, and you saw, you say that you know that the knowledge of farmers everywhere in the world is very important and consistent and complementary with the knowledge of the science. So we have to take that into account. For example, it will be a farmer that can say, oh, for our habits, for example, we should prefer this kind of augmentorium. I talk about augmentorium because now you know what is augmentorium. We could use that because it's common in the region. I don't know, but their role is so important because they are the user. And of course, because agroecology includes not only the field but also the food system, we have also to link with consumers, policers, certificators, and so on. So we really, it's a great job, and I can assure you that next week or this afternoon or next week or next month, you will have a new form of agriculture very well running in Cambodia. It's impossible. It needs years. But if we don't start today, we will never start. We will never. Sorry,
okay. So yeah, we will go on. Just I was thinking that we need to translate all the training material and maybe the film that you have to have a Khmer version of everything. Because to convince people, we have to have the training material, etc. But I think we have to go on. It's already late.
Yes.
So thank you for this discussion, and maybe we go on with the training.
Okay. So I share my presentation. Can you see the presentation?
Not yet on my side.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, yeah, it's working.
Okay, Mathilde, maybe we will need a part 3 for this topic.
Yeah, sure. I guess we are all so interested. So
No, but I speak too much. Yes, it's interesting. I think it's
it's a problem
interesting.
with passionate people.
And the question you can ask are very important and relevant. So don't hesitate to stop me. We have time to discuss. We have and the time now we take maybe it's the most important time, the most important period to know exactly. But we have not to do tomorrow. Okay, a meeting at 9 to make a demonstration of something. No, we have to share. We have to agree. And we have to know exactly what we want to do together.
Yeah.
You remember that the first time we talk about this first part of agroecological crop protection, explaining what are the main principles of agroecology, what is crop protection with an overview of the crop protection history. And so what is the agroecological crop protection concept, which is only the cross between agroecology and crop protection? It's just to apply agroecological principles to crop protection. So we discuss about why we talk about that now, and I remind that the main it's because we have to answer to the main issues of agriculture today, and I can say to development today for local and global changes issues. And today we are going to start because I think it's impossible to talk all I have to present to you on that. But what are the main principles and how can we implement in the field agroecological crop protection with 4 parts? What could be a definition of agroecological crop protection, and what includes agroecological crop protection? You can stop me when you want. Huh? Okay, I start by saying that we can identify some roots of agroecological crop protection. The first one you can see in the words is ecology, and ecology maybe it's the main principle. Ecology, you know, it's the study of interaction between communities within a system. It's not respect of environment. It's important to understand that. Of course, if you do something which is ecological, you have a lot of chances that it could be also positive for environmental requirements, for example. But it's not the way. The way is ecology. Ecology is the best optimization of interaction between communities. The first so all what when I talk about agroecological crop protection, the main guiding line is what is ecology inside. Okay, and the second one, of course, is agroecology. Agroecology is ecology in agroecosystems, and I write agroecology but for 2 main reasons. First, because an agroecosystems is a concept that includes what we could call a cropping system, a farm, and towards a landscape and a territory. So that is agroecosystem, and inside of that we can move and have freedom to do what we want, and how can we apply the principle of agroecology. And the second reason is because agroecology now, I show that on a picture on a slide last time, is a new concept, a new disciplines, a new set of practices, it's new, and it's considered today as a realistic alternative to the current agriculture, which is not sustainable. We have already seen the main principle of agroecology, so I don't come back on that. The third route of ACP is, of course, IPM. IPM is integrated pest management. I said some words on IPM. I wrote a paper recently on that to say, even if we talk about integrated, about pest, about management, IPM today, for now 6 decades, it's mainly using chemicals in the fields. And we have to learn about that. For example, how to, for agroecological crop protection, to avoid the constraints or the obstacles or the barriers that made IPM non-adopted by users. And we also can learn that in IPM, because it was a concept more centered on one pest, one crop, one farm, and so on. It was not a holistic or systemic approach, and it was not really participatory. Even, for example, that we call, and you know that, and I don't say it's bad, but we have to learn from that, the experience of farmer field schools, where we mostly have a top-down approach, and we say to farmers, okay, we have to do that. What do you think? We can discuss a little, and you have after to apply that in your farm, and it's not adopted. It's very well adopted with very good results if it's implemented, for example, in a project of research and development and so on. As soon as you have money and support to implement that in the field, it's okay. But after that, farmers come back to their traditional and previous way of make agriculture. And for IPM, I also said clearly that the ultimate way for agroecological crop protection is to suppress completely the use of chemicals. But if I say that, I have also to say immediately that, of course, it's not now for tomorrow, but we have to consider to implement a transition period to move from the current situation to a situation without chemicals. For another route of ACP, which is a very old way of growing, is organic farming. Because organic farming for a long time, before the apparition, for example, of pesticides, we did organic farming, of course. And the old people and the fathers of organic farmers know perfectly that it's based on 2 main pillars, which are biodiversity and soil. And we saw also already that agroecological crop protection for pest regulation has these 2 pillars also. I would like also to stress, excuse me. I also would like to stress on the true and the false organic farmers, for example. You can do organic farming if you don't use pesticides, for example. But if you continue to grow, for example, on a larger field, one crop without biodiversity, without taking care of the soil health, for me, it's not organic farming. It's, of course, you are in the standards of organic farming, but it's not sustainable. So we have to keep that in mind. There are some false organic farming and some true organic farming. The principles of permaculture, you know, permaculture are very interesting because the roots are exactly the same. Maybe we can say that the human place is more important in permaculture, and we can also stress that permaculture is often implemented in the small areas, while agroecology is developed for agriculture, so on larger fields. And another one, of course, is that you know perfectly in Cambodia, with all the colleagues, all the efforts you do on this is conservation agriculture, or based also on soil and biodiversity, and all the other forms of agriculture in the same with the same lines. For example, minimum tillage, what we call sustainable intensification, ecological intensification, and so on. So these are the main roots of ACP. Have you any question on that?
No question, I think.
Okay.
One question from Ruth.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay, just okay. You pointed out a very important issue, that you say that organic farming, if you do it properly, it is not replacing one monoculture with another monoculture that is only going without chemicals. I think this is an issue we should communicate as well to people and organizations around us. And I'm not talking about the ministry, but I'm talking, for instance, to AFD. I mean, AFD, in some cases, would like to say, okay, they want to go for peanuts, 100 tons of peanuts in a small area. That means you basically, for a number of years, replace the paddy cultivation with peanut monoculture. My question to you is, do you have anything, any publication that we can refer to the risk of going for so-called organic monocultures? If you can guide us to scientific literature, that will be very, very useful. Thanks.
Okay, very good comments. Also, I take some seconds to add a value on that. So we agree on that. And first, there is a difficulty to communicate on that. It's not easy to say, for example, a funding organization that okay, you fund organic farming, but it's not really sustainable. For example, one advantage, even for what I can call false organic farming, an advantage is that you have not chemicals, for example, and it's good for health. But one constraint, of course, is that the agroecosystem and the agriculture is not sustainable. To answer to your question, yes, I can have a look and search for publications saying something like that. I know it exists. I am not focusing all my attention on organic farming, but I agree with that, and I am going to do my best to find some publications saying that, and that we could use for example, for policers. Yeah.
Okay, that would be very useful. Thank you very much.
Yeah. I continue?
Yes, please.
Okay. Yes. Mathilde, yes? Okay, if I continue, I take an illustration of what I say with these roots, for example. How could we would we build? How could we design agroecological crop protection? You will see it's very easy to understand. For example, we start with agronomy and ecology, and that gives agroecology. And if you see a parallel between agronomy and ecology, you have inputs given by the two set of disciplines, which are agronomy and ecology, and of course agroecology. And then you can distinguish agroecosystems and natural but sustainable agroecosystems. And for example, in a natural ecosystem, you have some disciplines. For example, there is a disciplines called conservation biology. It means that we do our best to conserve biodiversity in this kind of ecosystems. But if you transpose that to agroecosystem, you can have the same thing, and it's called just conservation biological control. But you know, conservation biological control is not to look for new natural enemies and to release in a zone, for example. It's just to say we potentially have a pressure, a population, communities of natural enemy, and if we can do our best to ensure that they are alive, it's good. And for example, if you stop spraying, you will see that in your crop, in your fields, you will see a lot of insects, but the large majority of them are beneficial. So we can make a parallel between the agroecosystem and natural ecosystems, which are sustainable. And of course, we have the three pillars we were talking about last time: the soil and biodiversity. We have also talk about that today, but also we stressed last time. For example, just an illustration with augmentorium and of the importance and the place of prevention. We can add, for example, some techniques which are not from prevention, from soil health, from biodiversity, which are very relevant from IPM, that we can be used in IPM, what we can use, for example. So if we do all these things, we can have not a bad arsenal of tools to try to implement agroecological crop protection in the field. And of course, you can add permaculture, organic farming, conservation agriculture, and so on. We can add a lot of things on this kind of a figure. Now, a quick word on issues, because it's important to keep that in mind, and it answers in partly answers to the question of first question of this morning. Agroecological crop protection as agroecology just want to address the challenges of the agriculture of today and tomorrow. And we consider that agroecology and agroecological crop protection is a good way to take for promoting virtuous and sustainable change, not only in agriculture, I mean in the field, but also in the food system, the whole food system, not only for local issues, but also for global issues. For the different approach, we can stress on the farmer, for example, main challenge, which is to maintain or increase its productivity in the fields. And it could be based on a good functioning of an agroecosystem. I took last time an example of a good body, of a human body in good health, which is less ill than well, you understand, a bad body and so on. It's the same thing for an agroecosystem or for soil or for plants. It's very linked with the One Health concept. Something which is in good health, you don't need medicines, you don't need chemicals and so on. Of course, reducing the impacts of current agriculture with the consequences of chemicals, for example, on the human health and the environment. And of course, it's not evident for farmers, but I'm sure they are aware with that for the global changes. I mean, climate change, erosion of biodiversity, decreasing in the soil health around the world, and so on. So it answers, it's important to know that, not only to local issues, but also to global issues, to everybody. Now, coming back to the definition of ICP, we talk about the definitions of agroecology by, for example, some authors such as Wesel or Glissman, which has 3 components. A set of scientific disciplines, a set of agronomic practices, and a set of social interactions with in the middle the transition. And it's important, the word of transition, because it means we have not to forget that we need a period for that, and a period with conditions of success. Without that, we will do nothing. And if you apply that to agroecological co-production, you can define agroecological co-production as the same thing. It can be considered as a scientific field, interdisciplinary, participatory, holistic disciplines. It can be considered as a set of practices. We talked last time about augmentorium use. And it's important, and you know, at the base, I am a scientist interested by technical or biophysical aspect of agronomy. But more and more, I move towards the importance of social interaction. And in agroecological co-production, we have already this morning talked about the importance of that. And it's, for me, if I have to answer to simple questions, I think it's the most important. I think if we agree together to do something, if we can have trade-offs, if we can have synergies, between, for example, actors, we can go in a shop, I say an arsenal of practices, and take one and to apply, of course, with a certain order, with ecological logic and so on. But well, the third point is very important. And I'm surprised, because 10 years ago I might not say that. I would like to stress only on the agronomic practices or scientific aspects. And it shows that we learn every day. And but I'm sure today, at my age, is that the third point is very important. Okay. I remain the 3 pillars: preventive measures, soil health, and biodiversity. We were talking about that, so I don't spend time. And we made an analogy with medicine. And we could also take the the example of road safety. So with importance of prevention. For scientific field also, the aim is so I come back to the previous. For scientific fields, the aim of research is to stress and to enhance the efforts on these 3 pillars, not on chemicals, for example. You don't see here, but we are trying to develop knowledge on chemicals. We have to do that, because, for example, on a minor component of the field of research, we can look for less harmful chemicals than the chemicals used today and so on. But the main priority are soil, biodiversity, and what are the prevention ways to implement that in the field. The second point for a scientific field of agroecological co-production is devoted to the ecosystem services. Of course, you know that, but it's important to stress that for production, for regulation, maintenance, even for cultural services. I took the example of Chayot in Réunion 1 year ago. 1 hour ago. Agroecology and agroecological co-production can enhance most of the ecosystem services. And it's a real challenge. For example, if you do something very well on a side, and on another side, the consequences are very bad, you have not to do that. So it's always something in terms of trade-offs, of synergies, of antagonism, and so on. But we know it's that agroecology and agroecological co-protection enhance most of the ecosystem services. And of course, one consequence of the ecosystem services optimization is the health of agroecosystems. It includes health of plants, I mean crop protection. It includes soil health. It includes farmer health and so on, livestock health and so on. And it's going to reduce, and it answers also to a question of this morning, it reduces synergy time of work, for example, cost and so on. Another field of scientific disciplines is devoted to social interaction. For example, if you have new scales of reasoning for crop protection, you have to ask, for example, how can we, I'm sorry, it's a French slide photos, but it's the same thing. Huh? How can we manage, for example, hedgerows, which belong to nobody or which belong to everybody? It's not a work for one farmer. It's a work for maybe for different farmers, maybe for other stakeholders, such as landscape manager and so on. So it's important, this point. And another side of the importance of this point is that we have to optimize the links horizontally between the farmers. We have to do our best to promote the conditions to enhance the discussions, the share of knowledge of farmers and so on a, I could say, horizontally level, but also on a vertical scale to improve the discussions with other stakeholders. And of course, to mix, for example, farmers' knowledge and scientists' knowledge, for example. But for that, you know that there are a lot of lock-ins on different point of view. I don't want to spend time on that. And another last thing is, I said that before, is to link more and more than we do today the agroecosystems, the field, and the food system. For example, if we can resume that between farmers and consumers. For the second component of the definition, that was for research, if you want, and I could spend several hours or several days on the research for ACP. But now we move to the second point, which is of the definition, which is a set of practices. And here we have to keep in mind some characteristic of ACP strategy, because if we want to implement something in the field, We have to have a strategy. And it's not a, it's not a shop where you take something and something and something. It's a way where you do the different practices with a certain order, with a logical, with a logic of ecology. So the first thing is to have in mind that we need to optimize the ecological functions. We have to enhance the interaction between communities in the system. The second thing is that maybe you know the ESR concept promoted by two Australian old researchers, Hild and MacLeod, or Mac something, I don't remember. Anyway, and in one of the difficulty of agroecology and agroecological crop protection is that we have to redesign the cropping system, not to adapt, not to improve, not to substitute something, but to redesign the cropping system. It's important to keep that in mind. We have not the same way of reasoning. The third point is that the strategy is based on a systemic and participatory approach. I already talked about that, but it's so important that I want to stress on that. Other points concern the fact that we have to implement the practices in the field in a certain order. And for example, it's exactly the contrary that we are going, what we do today. Today we start with applying, I talk in general, applying pesticide in a crop, and after we say, okay, we can add something on a cultural point of view, something on a biological point of view, and so on. No, we have to have we need to adopt a certain order in the strategy. I will talk about that after. Priority is given to preventive measures. You have already understood that. The scales are completely new, and I don't want to limit to time scale and space scale. I want to introduce a new scale. It doesn't exist if you want, but it's important to put words on that. It's a collective management of something. Farmers in agroecology cannot work alone, except if he's except in specific cases, such as, for example, he is isolated in a place, he's alone. Or you have, for example, I saw in Brazil a crop of cotton of 8,000 hectares. So you don't need to have a collective management, but you can accept that it's not agriculture; it's just agricultural production. And often we heard that agroecology is a comeback to the prehistory because it looks like it's organic farming, or it looks like it's a traditional farming. Traditional farming is a term used in Africa before the apparition and the use of, for example, mineral fertilizers and chemicals. Farmers used to grow without inputs. And we call that traditional farming. And if, for example, in agroecological crop protection, you suppress your HALT chemicals, some categories of people say it's a comeback. But no, agroecological crop protection use, of course, old knowledge, but also new knowledge, old technologies, but also very modern technologies and so on. And you saw, for example, I include the photo of Augmentorium. Augmentorium is very easy to understand, but it's really, you cannot find a tool with such use, I mean, sanitation, biological control, composting, and so on. That you cannot find that in a shop, and it's so. I stress that we can use old or new technologies and tools. That is also important for practices. We talk about that before this presentation. We have some questions, and the first question are not how and when and how much is an augmentorium or another practice, but the first question is why. What do we want? Is it needed? Is it hoped? Do we have a shared diagnosis, a collective one? Do we have the capacities for transition? I mean, for example, do we have the abilities for reasoning on new skills? Do we have the support of policers? Do we have the technical support and so on? So it's very important. Here I list some success requirements for the implementation of ICP in the field. And of course, you have to be in line with the rules of policers. And for example, you know that for crop protection, you have a lot of rules, how to use it, how to protect the users, how to limit the rate of residues in the food and so on. You also have to be aware that you need to have all the stakeholders motivated in this change of way, and particularly the farmers. If the farmers don't want to change the way, we said that before, we have to do nothing. We have to do something else. We have to also to stress training. But when I say training, it's also information, sensibilizations, communications, not only in one sense, top down, but in all the sense. Every kind of actor can improve the knowledge of the others. Of course, we have not to do only efforts for crop protection. I will show after a slide, but if we do something well or virtuous for crop protection, we have to also to have good and positive consequences, for example, for the sustainability of the cropping systems. We need collaborations, complementary, consistency, and so on, and collective action. Well, I repeat that, but because we already talked about that with comments in the discussions, and because more we repeat that, more it will be understood and taken into account. And for example, for the preparation phase before implementing ACP in the field, we have to know what is the idea, what could be the support from authorities, from policers, from technicians, and so on, to ensure that the transition period will be okay. I have some slide. I just look at the clock. I will go rapidly on that, but I have 2 or 3 slides just showing the importance of the transitions. We will not change the agriculture from today to tomorrow. It's impossible. Maybe it will take 1 hour, 2 days, 2 centuries. I don't know, but it's not from not like that. It's not pushing on a button. And the first things that we have to keep in mind, it's very important, because if we want to have success for the transition phase, the first on crop protection, the first thing to do is to stop the use of pesticides. if I say that, I have also I have to say immediately that, of course, we are rational, and in the transition phase, we could use pesticide if needed, but never as the first resort. And that is very important, because if you stop pesticides as a first step, you will see that the biodiversity, for example, is going to increase. I could make a seminar on the increase of biodiversity. Just if you stop spraying in a mango orchard in Réunion, you move from about 10 arthropod species from about 500 arthropod species very quickly, and most of them are useful species. But anyway, it's the same thing for soil also, because when you apply pesticide in your crop, you have a lot of consequences for soil health. I mean, for example, for the biological component of the soil, but not only, also for the structural component. Well, just I would like to stress that it's important, and if we just say to the farmers, for example, oh, it could be nice to halt pesticides, of course, they cannot understand that, they cannot accept that, they cannot hear that. So we have to understand why we have to do that. And for example, if we make agreements with policers, and we say, for example, we need a transition period where we highly reduce or we stop the use of pesticide, but maybe we need some support from you only for this transition period. If we have an agreement, it could be very important. It's better than giving money, for example, after, because you have not good yields, because you have grown, for example, a crop which is not adapted to the situation or something like that. Well, you understand what I mean. And that needs time. That needs that we have to discuss at first with policers, such as other actors, but including policers, for example.
Yeah, just so Philippe, I'm sorry.
Yes?
I have a comment, but also Vera has a question. So
yes, I cannot see the comments, but can you give it?
Yeah, so Vera.
Yes, Philippe, thank you so much for. Let's talk about the case of mango in Cambodia. So as you said that for the transition we have to stop the use of pesticide, but right now it is the crop production system is driven by the market demand. For example, the farmer, they have to produce the off-season mango. Otherwise, if they follow the seasonally mango, they cannot sell their product, or it's very cheap. So as the demand is mainly for exportation. So at this point, from your point of view or experience, what can we do to encourage the actor? The actor here, I refer to farmer, the consumer, also the authority or ministerial levels. How to encourage them to shift from conventional base to agroecology crop protection, or is there any specific room that we can integrate? As you know that to make off-season mango, for sure that we need to use chemical to stimulate the flowering and bearing fruit. I mean to in order to produce the fruit at the specific time frame that we want to harvest. So is there any point that we can integrate the agroecology crop protection into this one, or what are the way that we can encourage the actor to apply the ACP from your experience? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your questions. I want to repeat that I don't know everything. I'm just a simple guy, a simple scientist with my experience, my own experience, but I have my point of view, and I will answer to you, but it's only my point of view. You have also said a very useful and relevant comments, and I have an experience on mango without pesticides, on farmer scales, with a lot of results, and I can send today a paper showing technical results, economic results, social results, cultural results, and so on, with agroecological protection of mango orchards where it has been done, and including the suppression of pesticides. And you will see, once again, we have not a reduction of the yield. And I could explain that, but anyway, it's not the aim of your question. But my experience is that first, the suppression of pesticide is the ultimate aim. And maybe it will be in 1 century, maybe it will be in 10 years, I don't know. For example, I belong to a foresight study at the European level, which is called Agriculture without Pesticides in the 2030, sorry. Okay, it means that in 10 years we are looking how to completely suppress the pesticide in Europe. And of course, you know that Europe chemicals is very important for farmers. And if you talk with I say, for example, a German farmer, and you say we are thinking to suppress the pesticide, he will say you are completely crazy. It's impossible, and so on. Exactly as you say for Cambodia. Exactly. And agroecological crop protection is not a dogma. I mean, it's not something that I don't want to hear about pesticide. No. If we need, you will see that after. If we need to use pesticides, why not? But not at the beginning, only as a last resort. It would be a pity if you just see your, for example, because you are talking about mango, it will be a pity to see just the pest eating the fruit. It's crazy. If, for example, the first step are not effective, and if we have some pesticide available, why not using them? I don't know, but of course not as a first resort. The price of the pesticides today, because they are in the public market, is quite cheap. Is the case of Cambodia, is the case in mostly in Southwest Asia, because you can find Chinese products very easy, and it's not cheap. But it's already the same thing in Africa. Africa is quite far from China, but in Africa you can find very cheap pesticide coming from China. One author, I read something like that, something on that, calls that not the green revolution, but the supermarket revolution. It means you find Chinese pesticide everywhere in Africa now, because it's cheap also. And I would answer to you by saying it's not because it's cheap, but we have to use them. The aim is not that. The aim is to do the rational strategy with a certain order and with the guiding line, which is ecology. For me, use of chemical doesn't belong to a rational logic of ecology. And for coming back to your last comment about other chemicals, I have already answered by saying that if we need to use chemicals, pesticide, we will use that. We are not a dogma. I don't know if the word in English is good, dogma, but it means No, we don't want to hear about this word. No, if we have nothing to do else that using pesticide, we can use. And if we can use, for example, other chemicals, I could talk about fertilizers. Mineral fertilizer are chemicals. We can use, of course. Agroecological protection is not a way to avoid some things. It's just a way to answer, to address the issues at the local and global issues. It's not to say to farmers, stop to do that, I avoid that. No, it's the contrary. Is to say, how could we do to have the most the best trade-off for different criteria. I think I have answered to your question, but you can be unsure.
Jean-Philippe, I just have a comment because I'm surprised by your answer. I thought that at least what we saw before is at least we need to stop one kind of pesticide. For example, if we want to increase insect biodiversity and increase the beneficials population, we have at least to agree about stopping the use of insecticide. So I understand that we can, for example, if we have this strategy to manage the insect, we can use fungicide if there is a disease, or we can tolerate the use of other kind of pesticide. But I'm surprised that you think that we still could use insecticide, because the basics that you showed before was that we at least need to stop the use of insecticides, because if we don't, or if we tolerate it, I think that it's very quick to say, okay, now I'm at the higher level that I can accept, so I spray. Nobody spray, so you understand me.
Yeah. What I could say, Mathilde, I could say different things. It's not a response; it's a discussion. Huh? First, if you consider insects, for example, suppressing insecticide, for me, it's not sufficient. I explain myself. For example, if you want to promote beneficials or natural enemies, you in certain conditions. But for example, we can take the example of a mango orchard. We have also to stop the use of herbicides, because if you use herbicide, you will kill all the beneficials which live on the soil, and you also will kill all the habitats of these beneficials. So, for example, to have a balance between some pests, last time I talked about fruit flies, for example. If you have a fruit flies at the last instar falling down on the ground, and it can become a pupae very quickly. But if there is a cover, a vegetal cover on the soil, it will take time to go to the ground, and you have a lot of chance that they will meet some predators, for example, such as you have a lot of predators such as spiders, ants, dermapters, and so on. So, and it's the same thing when the pupae is going to give an adult of fruit fly. So, for example, if you want to be consistent, you have also, for example, to stop herbicide. But when I talk like that before, it was just to stress that we need bon sens. I don't know, good sense maybe. If we stop pesticide, if we stop insecticide, it's already a first step, a progress. We cannot be perfect, and of course, even if the ultimate goal is to suppress all the pesticides. We need a transition. It's impossible to do that in one day. Maybe it's the 10 times I repeat that, but it's important. We need a transition period, and we could also talk about, for example, the side effects of some fungicides. For a long time in Europe, for example, we use bouillie bordelaise. I don't know in English. And now we know that, for example, bouillie bordelaise, which is a natural pesticide, has negative effects on some predators, such as coccinellids and so ladybirds and so on. So we could discuss of that, but we can go step by step. And if we can add, for example, insecticide when we are considering insect, it's a good way. But maybe we have to go further. And I take the opportunity to stress about some consequences of herbicides. I have already said that, but for example, the use of genetic transformed modified plants of maize, of cotton, of different crops in South America, particularly in Argentina, in Paraguay, in Brazil, and so on, has very, very bad consequences on the health of populations, because it increases the use of herbicides, mainly glyphosate, because the plants are resistant to these herbicides. And so it's not easy to say yes or no. It's we have to go step by step to progress. But something is clear. It's that pesticides kill of course insect diseases, virus, fungi, bacteria, and so on, but also have a very, very negative effects on human. And we have to keep that in mind. And for example, if you and some authors has done already that, if you transform the cost, the criteria of health in terms of money, for example, you will see that you have no rentability, no profitability of the use of pesticide, because, for example, the cost to take care of cancers or diseases caused by pesticide is very high. Is higher than the profit that you can take off in terms of increase in yield or something like that. So it's not easy to have only some seconds about that, but it's very interesting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I go ahead. Yes, that was also a question before. A policer, for example, if you discuss about agroecology or transition or something like that, the question will be how long does it take to have something very well? The answer, the only one answer is that we don't know. But to know it, we have to do it, not to talk about it, but to do it, and in the good conditions. You know, it's only bon sens. And it is important to have the support of the policers, because the transition period is a period of risk, and the main risk are, of course, for farmers. For example, for loss in yield or production. So we have to be sure that they can get support, not only from a technical point of view, for example, with all the teams of all the staff today, with technical advising and so on, but also by policers, by incentives. And yes, that is just to recall that we need to work together. Anyway, that now is how can we implement? Well, only on this slide I can discuss several hours. Well, that is a very important slide because it shows in our current knowledge what do we have to do concretely. I don't talk about in the field because you will see it will also concern the landscape, but we have 6 main components. And you can see that the title is quite long because all the words are very important. We are talking about an orderly strategy. A strategy is not an aim, is a declination, the declension of an aim in terms of practical. And after strategy, you have tactics. Tactics could be considered as practices. So the word order is very important. We have to do one thing only if the previous one is done and before the following one. And for example, you can go directly here to the sixth point. The sixth point. You see that the curative practices are just here. Before that, you have to do a lot of things. And when I will apply for each step, for each phase, what it contains, you will see that it's we have a lot of tools to do before using pesticides. I'm talking about agronomic. I mean at the scale of the cropping system, for example, or agroecosystems, but also considering the landscape practices. Because if you do something at the level of farm, we have already had discussion about that for example, the capacity of the ability of some insects to move on several 100 kilometers per day, for example. Even if you do something very well, very virtuous at the level of your farm, if it's not well done in the landscape, it will not work very well. So the first step is to I will decline that, but the first step is before to be okay with the law. You have not to do something if it's not allowed by the law. So you need the compliance with the rules and in terms of agriculture and crop protection, you have a lot of rules. And so that is the first thing. You have not to do something if it's not allowed. For example, I take an example. I don't want to take the example of this pesticide is forbidden. No, I would like, for example, to say that in France, in Europe, you have now very strict rules for using living organism. For example, in biological control, that we call bioprotection, biocontrol in French. We can use different types of products, and some of them are based or rely on living organism. And in France today, we are not allowed to use some of them, most of them, and in some countries you can. I don't know exactly the rules in Cambodia. I think that one colleague from IRD is going to talk about that in the next CASIC meeting at the end of the month. So it's important, but I don't know exactly. But first of all, you have to respect the law. The second step is to have a reasoning. You see, you are far from the field, but it's important to have that in mind. You have to start your reasoning at the landscape level. What do you have to do at the landscape level? And if I have time, but I'm concerned. I have something to show to you on that, mixing the ecological point of view and the social point of view or positions of the different actors, but not only in the field, but mostly at the landscape level. Then you move to the farm level, and farm level is not the scale of the cropping systems or the field. And at the farm level, you have also a lot of things to do. After that, you have to regularly, I could say daily, monitor what happened in your farm, in your fields, at your own level, of course. But you know that some systems already exist. We call that epidemiological monitoring at a different large scale level. But at your own level, for example, your farm or your cropping system, you have a necessity to go in the field and to see what happened. Not only for the pest, as we already done for a long time, but also, for example, for the beneficials or other trophic groups, and also for, I could say, the soil quality. What happens for what is the health of the soil? Now you have new tools to measure, to evaluate, to assess the quality of the soil, for example. And if you go in the field, you have to look what happened for biodiversity, what happened for insect, what happened for soil, and so on. And after that, you have, for me, it's the main step. It's the preventive practices at the cropping system of the farmers. And if you remember, last time I only talk about one small tool of the prevention, of the preventive measures that we have to, which are available. And finally, and it answers to the previous questions, if we need, we can use pesticides. But we can need curative measures, and within the curative measure, you can find different tools, and one of them is use of pesticides. And of course you can use them, but you will use them not as you use them today. I mean, for example, if you have only a part of your crop which is infested by some pest, you can go and spray only this part. You can spray also only a tree which is infested by something, and so on. Well, and you can choose and be careful to the type of and the dose of active ingredients you use. So Mathilde, I see the time. Everybody knows me now. I speak too much, but I think it's important to have that in mind before doing anything in the field which is not relevant. And I have a lot of slides after this one. I decline each point into a large arsenal of tactics and then of crop practices. So it's I don't know what you want to do. Maybe I could stop here, answer to questions, and keep the rest for the next time, because it's important, and I would like to ensure you that you have a lot of practices that you can use which are effective before using pesticides.
Yeah, I think it's a good strategy. Just a small comment for next time. Do we agree to maybe to keep on Wednesday morning? I think it's maybe we can do it regularly.
I'm sorry, I cannot next Wednesday.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I think next week I can only Friday.
Okay, and Ruth, what do you think?
Because only Friday. That's going to be the which date is that?
Sorry, I cannot hear.
Okay, now that will be the 1st of October, isn't it?
Yes,
say
yes.
only on Friday, the 1st of October. Yeah, okay, that would be good. That's
Yes. Yes.
let's keep it. We can do the same time, say starting at 8:30, because some of us will have to do field work and they will not be in Phnom Penh, and it's good to have it in the morning, and then after that they can travel.
Okay.
Okay.
It's the same time on 1st of October, right?
I have a proposal. My proposal is, now you know me. I am able to speak all the day, and so I would ask you if you could stop me and discuss with me, because most of your questions, most of your comments are very relevant, and I know I will discuss about that, but not today. Or so don't hesitate, please, to stop me, because if it's only a monologue from me, it's not. Maybe it's not the best way.
Perhaps it would be an idea to have a good plan where how long. Because if I listen to you, you can. This could be a whole series of lectures, which could last 3 months or something like that, because you have all these different topics. So, but we don't unfortunately have the time to do that, because we have a lot of work to do, as you know. Can we get, let's say, a more kind of a lesson or lecture plan? What do you want to do each week, and then how many weeks you want to continue in this, and then we can discuss that with each, and so we can also plan our work better in advance.
Okay, and if you see the numbers of slide, for example, on this slide you can see it's only some topics I can develop for you, and it would be great if, for example, you could say to me, oh, it would be interesting if you can develop this topic, or for example, I have a very nice model to link damage of fruit flies with the practices, to compare, for example, chemicals, use of chemicals, and agroecological co-protection, which is very interesting and practical. But anyway, I would like that you don't hesitate to propose to the form and the content of this list of lectures or seminars.
Yeah, okay, but for me at least, it's a bit difficult to envisage what you could discuss over there. I can have some questions on things, but so perhaps if you could suggest, let's say,
maybe next time I could start by a quick overview of, for example, each topic listed here. What does it include? What is it on? What could be useful in this topic, and so on? How can we adapt that to Cambodia, or it's completely disconnected, and so on? If you want, I could start by a quick, but very quick, a very quick overview on each of these topics, and then I think you will be able to say, okay, we prefer to talk about that, and so on. But
just Philippe, about that. Last time, maybe there was a proposal to have a practical session about cashew nut. I think maybe we can start by this one, or for my side also about vegetable crop protection, different. So maybe something more focused on one crop or one kind of crop. Just so Pep wanted to say something.
I want to say. too. But
yes. Thank you, Philippe. Actually, sometimes it's cut. Maybe yes. Actually, you have sent us about the video through YouTube. It is good, and maybe somebody asked you already. I have no question, but just my proposal related to the slide presentation slide. It is great if you can send us about the slide presentation through Matil, yeah, and Matil can share to us, and we can read, and then we can have some more question, and then we will ask for another session. Yep. Thank you.
Okay, and Sati, you had a question?
Yes, I have something to say. First is related to the agroecology crop protection in Kanda province, because after I got the training, the presentation from Jean-Philippe, I'm thinking about the demonstration include agroecology crop protection to Kanda province, and the first thinking is related to how we design the demonstration. Because the feeling of farmer in Kanda province, they are applied much of the chemical and pesticide, and the experience from us in Cambodia is really quite difficult for the beginning of stop or reusing the chemical or the pesticide. And so the question is how we are design the demonstration related to agroecology crop protection in Kanda, and how we support the farmer according to the transaction period. Yes, this is the I don't know the answer yet, but just the question that we should discuss together. Or yes, you're sure, because according to the experience that we work for the vegetable organic, 2 or 3 year beginning is really difficult, and farmer say that is the low yield, and the cost of the production can higher, the labor is higher, and the price is similar, the same compared to the chemical production. Yes. And one more thing is not the question, but this is my I think that we can clear together when we are talking about the agroecology is not talking only a set of practices, but we are talking related to the social movement that we are work with the people. We are how I say we are encourage. We are work with the participatory innovation, participatory development with the farmer. We are work with a group of user AC and link to the market. This is the what we are change in our mind is agroecology linked to the social movement. And one more thing related to is not only the practice and the social. When we are talking about the agroecology, is we are talking about the one more thing related to the how the second I'm forgot about that. It's the English, but okay, yes, that's all. Okay, and thank you. This is the impression. Yes.
Can I add something? Getting back to what the topics that say.
Also, so yes, a scientific. Yes, agroecology is a scientific discipline. Yes, this is the 3 dimensions we are thinking about. That it's not only technical only. Yes. Thank you.
These are important points, Sati. I fully agree. But okay, if you're thinking of the point that you said, some practical steps. How could we do the things in an area where there's an overuse of all kinds of agrochemicals and especially pesticides in Kandal in particular? And that's going to be. But then some of the other presentations you have already, maybe saw in the list, are related to that as well. I mean, I think mangoes is definitely there an issue in Kandal. In Vichet, we have the issue of the cashews. So some of them are very interesting. And perhaps it would be a good idea if you could send us a screenshot of the list, send us that, and then we discuss that among ourselves, and then before the weekend we can send you an email where we say, okay, these are the highest priority for us.
Yeah. Okay, I completely agree with that.
Answer, yeah, sorry, Jean-Philippe. Ruth, maybe because I already tried to explain the context to Jean-Philippe, but maybe it could be interesting to have a presentation of the area and of the main constraints of crop protection in Kandal, and maybe Soti or Sonari. It could be nice maybe to have a presentation so Jean-Philippe also can work with us and can better adapt, discuss with us what strategy we can propose. What do you think?
Yeah, thank you. I completely agree with everything that has been said. And thank you, Mathilde, to say that, because I wanted to say, for example, in the list, I understand that cashew nuts is an issue in the zone, but I know nothing on cashew nut. And I can try with you together to apply the principles of agroecological crop protection to cashew nuts. But before that, I think the presentations of the cashew nuts, of the context, and as you said, Mathilde, the crop protection context in where you're working in, I need that, because without that, I am not going to learn something about cashew nuts to you. I am not, a specialist. I have some experiences on different crops, but not on all. I am a simple guy, just a small person. So if you want, we discuss on agroecological crop protection and cashew nuts, it will be a pleasure for me. But you will be the main actors for that. Without that, don't push on a button and wait for an answer. You understand what I mean? So it's very important that you said, Mathilde, and I completely agree with that. I wanted to ask you, for example, it could be in the next week. I don't know when, but somebody or a group of people from you. One is, for example, describing the context of the agriculture in Cambodia in some places, one on crop protection, one on cashew nuts, and so on. And it will be very nice to do an exchange like that. And I think it's only this way we can adapt. And I also wanted to answer to one question, because it's important. Excuse me, somebody is. Because concerning the demonstrations, I think you have not to start demonstrations to show agroecological crop protection is interesting, important, effective. I don't know. You have not to do that. You can do a demonstration to show, for example, that this tool could be adapted to the context that you meet. For example, I don't know, in cashew nuts, and for showing or for convincing the farmers of agroecological crop protection, I think we have not to use this word convince. No, we have just to organize sessions with them and just to discuss with them what do they want to do. And of course, we know we want to go in this direction, but them, what do they want to do? What do they understand? What do they agree to something to try, and so on? So for me, there are two things to do. Of course, some demonstration, concrete demonstration on some tools. For example, it's easy to show that an augmentorium can be a tool very interesting. I think we can organize that, but we have not to organize the implementation of that. And we can also organize, on the other side, sessions of discussion with all the actors. That's my point of view. Before starting to do something at, for example, a large scale or something like that. And I keep in mind to send you to the list of the different topics, and you can make an order in it. But I think that it's also important to have the basis of agroecological crop protection, not only the applied one. And I repeat that my only aim as a scientist is to apply the result of the research, not to keep them for the knowledge, for the academic knowledge, not only for publications and papers and so on, but first to be applied and to improve the level of life of the farmers.
Okay. So thanks a lot. We are out of time again. So we have our next session on 1st of October at 8:30 to 10:30. So I give the suggestion to have a short presentation of the area of, at least of Kandal. I think it's a good start, because I like Jean-Philippe here that you understand the different kind of systems there. And yes, Oti?
Okay, Alice, I would like to I would prefer not to have that presentation on the 1st of October from our side, because we have a lot of things to complete before the 1st of October. So unfortunately, we cannot put a priority at this point. A week later would be no problem, but I mean, until the end of the month, we're extremely busy producing things.
Yes.
Yes, Mathilde.
So yeah, maybe we need a small time before also on next meeting. If you want, we can just wait after Pshumben and start again after Pshumben. What if you think it's easier? Yeah, Jean-Philippe?
Yes, because you are busy before this date, I can continue with these presentations I have started today, because it's important. You will see that after theoretical principles, you have practical recommendations to apply in the field. So
okay.
Maybe we can consider that on the 1st of October, I can continue with presentations to show you concrete propositions.
Okay.
And after, if you want.
Okay.
That's a good idea, indeed. Thanks.
Okay, and so for the session after Pshumben, maybe we will go with the technical aspect of
I have another question, Mathilde.
Yes.
Very important. How many kilometers have you to do before you arrive?
The number of kilometers is not a problem. The problem is the time it takes, because the road is under construction.
How long?
So I think we need 6 more hours to arrive.
You're also traveling, Matilda. You're in the car.
No, I'm not in the car. I stopped, but yeah, I have to go back. It's okay.
Okay, good. Okay, I wish you a pleasant journey then, and see you again next week.
Yeah, see you next week. Thank you all.
Okay, thank you.
Bye. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you.
Okay, bye-bye, everybody. Yes.